to the budget, because I think you raise a good point about the budget. But on what McAlvis just said there, what he's basically saying is that the reason this Timber deal has fallen through is not because of Erik ten Hag, it's not because of the Manchester United fans, it's because of the last 9 years. And I think that more specifically, if the Van der Beek situation hadn't occurred, I think Timber would be a United player. So basically, Marcel van der Kraan, who's a Dutch journalist, has been on Sky Sports this morning, and he was asked the question, is it dead in the water with Timber to Manchester United? And he basically said, yeah, it's dead in the water. A few weeks ago, Timber's agents were in London discussing a deal. Now remember, if you go back through the United Stand, I think it was tomorrow, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did a video where I said terms agreed with Timber. Had that from two sides, Dutch side and close to the club. Terms agreed with the player. So that, what Van der Kraan's saying there, just verifies the information I knew was good anyway. That's why I was 80%. It was good information. As I said, I've never really had great information around De Jong, a little bit around Anthony, a little bit around Malacia. I mean, the Dutch ones have been quite good, but obviously De Jong isn't in the Netherlands. He's in. We were very confident around Timber because he wanted to come to United. Wages were not a problem. Personal terms were not a problem. Erik ten Hag really wants him. So it was tick, 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 tick. And the only thing that was left, the only doubt really, I was 80% sure we were going to get him. The only 20% thing was the fee with Ajax, who didn't want to sell him. But Ajax will sell. They're not Dortmund. If a player says they want to go, Ajax are not the club that will say we're not going to sell you. So that's where we were before the international break. The international breaks happened, and as Marcel van der Kraan has said this morning on Sky, this deal is basically going to happen. Terms are agreed. They've been to London to speak to United. Then Louis van Gaal happens, and Louis van Gaal has made it clear to Timber he would not be in the Dutch team if he wasn't playing every week for Manchester United. Now, there's two things there. There's three things there. First of all, Van Gaal's name keeps coming up in relation to Manchester United. What do you think about Koulibaly, says Ryan? I doubt that would happen. Bayern paid 70 million for Mazraoui, Gravenberch and Mane. United are paying 85 million plus bonuses for De Jong. Thoughts, says Jack. And is De Jong just another big name who will, again, not match our expectations, says Danny? I think those conversations about De Jong need to happen when we've signed him. I certainly don't think we should just assume he's going to work. Paul Pogba probably came with a bigger reputation than De Jong and didn't work. So, you know, I would call any United fan a fool who thinks buying De Jong's going to solve our problems. We've bought players before that are brilliant elsewhere and then just can't do it here. So but that's probably a conversation for when we have him. Bringing it back to Timber, there's three things to say. First of all, Van Gaal's got a massive problem with United. And probably justifiably so. He won the FA Cup and got sacked. If someone won the FA Cup now, they'd think about buying him a statue, you know, building him a statue, because we haven't won anything for 5 years. So Van Gaal's bitterness towards Manchester United, you can understand, and the people who sacked him are still at the club. So it's not like things have changed at United. Apparently, he told Ten Hag not to take the job, and Ten Hag decided to go with his own judgment. And here he is again, basically changing a player's mind. And he has changed somebody's mind. Now, the second point is, well, why is Timber having his mind changed? He's got to take a look at himself there, hasn't he? Ten Hag wants him. He'd agreed to come, and then he's had his mind changed. Does that show a little lack of maturity from Timber and a lack of confidence in his own ability? Because my feeling is, having watched United for the last year, this whole he'll be third choice to Maguire and Varane. Has anyone actually watched Maguire for the last year? Because I think Timber's a better player and he'd walk straight in the team. So, my argument, if I was Ten Hag, would be, but you'll be starting every week because that's the plan. And if you're not starting every week, you're not good enough to go for the World Cup anyway, are you? But my plan is to play you. Van Gaal, look, I don't massively have a problem with Van Gaal. I mean, we're paying for the Van der Beek thing. Van der Beek was a Dutch first-team player, and now he can't get in the squad because he moved to Manchester United. It's a test case that Van Gaal, it's our fault, basically. It's Manchester United's fault. It's not the fans' fault, it's not Ten Hag's fault, but this is what you're inheriting, Eric. You're inheriting bad mistakes that many fans have spoken about quite recently, that this will start to hurt us. And the reality is, the Van der Beek experiment is what is costing us Timber, because he can look at that and go, there's an Ajax player who was a first-team Dutch player who is now not going to the World Cup because he moved to Manchester United. And that's a strong thing for Van Gaal to say. And it's obviously an issue. But I'm disappointed by it, and I think Erik ten Hag will be very, very disappointed with it, because it was a player he really wanted and we thought we were going to get. Erik ten Hag knows Frankie de Jong better than anybody. I do agree with you. I mean, look, sometimes you've got to look at cold, harsh facts. We are spending over £300,000 a week again on a player that is coming here unwillingly. And we've not got a great experience with that. These players that are unwilling to come here don't necessarily give a shit when they are here, and that can lead to problems in the dressing room. So Ten Hag's staking his reputation on Frankie de Jong. He really is, but he's openly doing that. He's desperate for this player. He says it's worth it, and that's where we are. In fact, let's just move on from Timber for a moment then. So this is coming out from Rob Draper. Erik ten Hag doesn't want to sign 2 or 3 players before de Jong, only to find out that they don't have enough money to meet Barcelona's valuation. This is why he sees Frankie de Jong as urgent. And this actually makes a lot of sense. Now, remember, we've all been talking about the budget. Now, we're going to do a show tonight. I think you're going to quite enjoy it. As long as nothing major breaks, we're going to do it on the 8 o'clock show tonight. I know Adam did it a couple of weeks ago and a lot of you enjoyed it, so I'm doing it tonight. I'm going to have a budget, and I'm going to do 120, 150 and 200. And with each budget, I'm going to buy players, and you're going to work with me, and we're going to see how difficult it is to solve problems with different budgets. So 8 o'clock tonight, interactive, make sure you tune in. But this makes a lot of sense. If you are spending £70 million on Frankie de Jong, this makes a lot of sense, and I think this is true. The reason we've not bought anybody else is because if we went and bought Anthony for 50 and Malacia for 20, that's £70 million spent. That means you've probably, with a budget of 120, only got 50 left. And if Barcelona says we'll do a deal, but we'll do it for 70, you've got to find another 20 from somewhere. And I think whether people like it or not, and I hopefully get proved wrong on this, the reason we're so locked in on de Jong, the reason we're not doing any other deals, and remember, Liverpool are buying someone else this morning. They're getting this Ramsey guy from Aberdeen. The reason we're not doing any other deals is because our budget's not that big. And the reason we're so locked in on de Jong and not doing another deal is because we need to buy de Jong first to figure out how much we've got left. And the fact that Erik ten Hag doesn't want to sign 1 or 2 other players before getting in Frankie de Jong shows you how limited this budget is. I know there was a lot of talk yesterday about the money's there available. And I thought what Richard Arnold said yesterday was very interesting and commendable in parts. But is the CEO going to sit there surrounded by 4 or 5 United fans having a pint saying the budget's only 120 million? You know, he's going to be wearing his pints, isn't he? Because this football club is 120 million, which is worse than Arsenal's, worse than Spurs, worse than Chelsea's. You're going to get a load of shit for that. So he's never going to tell the truth about the budget. That's the one thing from that comments that have come out that I just don't believe. I don't believe our budget's very big. And I think things like this and what I said yesterday morning will come true. The reason we're not buying any other players is because Ten Hag's obsessed with de Jong and he doesn't want to buy anybody else in case they spend too much on somebody else and then there's not enough left for de Jong. I think de Jong is the focal point, and I think we'll spend about 70 million on de Jong, which will leave us about 50 million to spend on somebody else. And that will be it. I think that's it. Until proved otherwise, I think that's it. So, you know, it's not rocket science, it's not breaking news. The reason we're obsessed with de Jong is because we know that that's where most of the money's going, and therefore you've got to get that deal done before and see what you've got left.